Lisa Reynolds had been up since 5 a.m. She had worked a full 12-hour shift at the hospital, running from room to room, answering call lights, comforting anxious patients, and making sure medications were given on time. She had barely eaten, and her feet ached from standing all day. But there was no time to rest. She had one last errand before she could finally go home to her daughters. It was the first of the month, which meant bills were due soon. She held her paycheck tightly in her gloved hand as she pulled into the bank's parking lot. It wasn't a big check, but it was enough to keep the lights on, keep food in the fridge, and make sure her two little girls, Maya and Jordan, had what they needed. Lisa took a deep breath before stepping inside. The bank was busy, as expected. The line stretched almost to the door, filled with people handling their business before the day was over. She let out a small sigh, but she was used to waiting. Patience was something she had mastered over the years, both as a nurse and as a black woman. As she stood in line, she watched as an elderly white woman in front of her approached the counter. The teller, a middle-aged woman with short blonde hair, greeted her with a bright smile. "Good afternoon, Mrs. Williams. How are you today?" "Oh, I'm doing just fine, dear. Just making my usual deposit," the woman replied, handing over a check. Lisa watched as the teller processed the transaction smoothly. No questions, no issues, just a polite exchange of words, a few clicks on the computer, and a printed receipt. "Have a wonderful day," the teller said, still smiling. "You too, dear," Mrs. Williams responded as she walked away. Lisa stepped forward, setting her paycheck on the counter. "Good afternoon," she said, her voice warm but tired. The teller glanced at her, and immediately, the friendly smile disappeared. Her eyes flicked down to Lisa's scrubs, then back up to her face. Her posture stiffened as if she had suddenly switched into a different mode, one that Lisa had seen far too many times before. She picked up Lisa's check and examined it closely, flipping it over as though looking for something suspicious. Then she sighed, almost irritated. "Do you have an account with us?" she asked flatly. Lisa blinked. "Yes, I do," she answered, a little surprised by the question. The teller barely nodded before typing something into the computer. A frown settled on her face. After a long pause, she looked back at Lisa and said, "I'm going to need 2 forms of ID." Lisa's stomach tightened. "I've been banking here for years," she said carefully. "I've never had to provide 2 IDs just to deposit a check." The teller shrugged. "It's policy." Lisa knew that wasn't true. Still, she reached into her purse and pulled out her driver's license. "Here's my ID," she said, handing it over. The teller barely glanced at it before setting it aside. Then, with a scrutinizing look, she asked, "And what do you do for work?" Lisa frowned. "I'm a nurse," she said, keeping her voice steady. The teller raised an eyebrow. "A nurse?" she repeated, her tone dripping with skepticism. Lisa inhaled sharply, biting back the frustration rising in her chest. "Yes," she said firmly. "I've been a nurse for 10 years. The teller pursed her lips, tapping her nails against the counter. Then, as if to make a show of it, she held Lisa's check up to the light, turning it from side to side. "I just need to verify that this check is real," she said loudly enough for others in the bank to hear. Lisa felt her stomach drop. A few customers turned their heads. She could hear the subtle whispers, the shifting of feet. She could feel their eyes on her, judging, assuming. Humiliation crept up her spine, but she refused to let it show. She had seen this play out before. This slow, insidious questioning, this need to prove herself over and over again. Lisa took a deep breath, straightened her shoulders, and spoke clearly. "Are you questioning this check because I'm black?" The entire bank fell silent. For a moment, it felt as if time had stopped. The teller's face turned red. I didn't say that," she stammered. Lisa held her gaze. "You didn't have to," she said, her voice calm but unwavering. "I watched you process the last woman's deposit in seconds. No extra questions, no second ID, no verification. But when it's me, suddenly there's a problem?" A murmur spread through the line. A man in a navy blue suit shifted uncomfortably. "She's right," he said. "I didn't have to show 2 IDs either." "Me neither," a woman in a brown coat added. The teller swallowed hard, her hands trembling as she quickly typed into the computer. A few more clicks, and then she shoved the check back across the counter. "It's fine," she muttered. "The deposit is approved." Lisa took her receipt and folded it carefully. She looked the teller directly in the eyes and said, "Next time, treat everyone with the same respect, no matter what they look like." Then, without another word, she turned and walked away. The moment she reached the exit, something unexpected happened. Applause. It started softly, then grew louder. People clapped, some nodding at her in silent solidarity, others looking at the teller with disappointment in their eyes. Lisa stepped outside into the crisp winter air, breathing in deeply. Her heart pounded, not from fear, but from the weight of standing up for herself. She hadn't just spoken for herself. She had spoken for every Black person who had ever been made to feel like they had to prove their worth. And as she walked to her car, she knew one thing for certain. She would never, ever stay silent again.
Hey everyone, if this story moved you, if it made you think, or if it reminded you why we need to keep having these conversations, please take a moment to like this video. It really helps spread awareness. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so drop a comment below. Have you ever witnessed or experienced something like this? Let's talk about it. And if you believe stories like this deserve to be told, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We're here to share real, powerful stories that need to be heard. Lastly, share this with your friends and family. The more people who see this, the more we can bring awareness and change. Thank you for watching and being part of this journey. Let's keep pushing forward, together.